Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Slick Nick here. Forgive me if the air conditioning is making a noise, but try to speak as loud as I can. But it's really hot here in LA, in the San Fernando Valley. It's about 2:05 now, 2:06 p.m. on Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. It's been a while since I've done a video, of course, being so busy, but I'm just going to share a few things so far. On Uber's been picking up lately, and here's why. Apparently, those knuckleheads took away our multiplier here in California, so we can no longer set our own prices with the multiplier. And also the surge is coming up, flat surge with dollar amounts. But also the dollar amounts, though, sometimes can actually be bigger than what is shown when you take the trip, I guess depending on how long the trip is or where it's going, because I've noticed I've sometimes got higher surge than I was expected when I get the request. But they're still giving us trip info so far. They haven't done anything with that yet. And apparently, the surge, as I mentioned, is not multiplier no more. And I really enjoyed using that. It really has been helpful. But apparently for a while I was doing Lyft more because Lyft apparently was busier than Uber because a lot of riders were turning requests down on Uber because they were claiming the prices were too high. But about a few weeks before the multiplier went away, more riders have actually been returning to Uber again. But now that the multiplier is sadly gone, it is actually getting busier now. But so I'm still sticking with the strategy while I still have the trip info, like the estimated fare that we will be getting and also the destination. So following the Torsten, the rideshare professor's example, under 4, we ignore. At about 5, maybe we drive. But for me, I start usually between 5 and 8, depending on how far I am from the pickup, is where I will drive. That goes for all ride types, X, Green, and deliveries. Oh, and speaking of Uber Green, I also got my first Uber Green ride recently. It's something new, and apparently I got 50 cents more for it. That was more than that, but better than nothing. The car I'm renting right now with Hire Car is Toyota Prius, 2009 Prius. It has leather seats, backup camera, loaded for 2009, and it qualifies for Uber X and Uber Green, which is perfect, which is working out fine for me, and I have it with Lyft as well. And apparently it just angers me when we lost that multiplier. And also, Uber has also rolled out the new terms of service, probably. Well, they did have a fare minimum and then also a TOS. So remember, always look in the TOS or the contract they give you. And if you see something about arbitration, after you accept it, you must opt out of arbitration. And I mean opt out with the email address they give you. And even if you had other email addresses that they had you send to in the past, you can send it to them as well. It never does any harm, just to make sure they get your message that you are opting out of arbitration. I'll have a link to Rideshare Drivers United's website where there's a tool that can help you with opting out. You'll find it in the description box below. Uber also has been rolling out bonuses, like promotions, if you get a certain number of rides, if you drive in certain areas, just like they did back in the day, like 2 years ago. Apparently they're doing that because they're short of drivers. They don't have enough drivers out there to meet demand, so that's why it's surging a lot. Plus, they're also giving out the bonuses to try to keep drivers, to encourage drivers to keep driving and also to come back on the road. They're even offering incentives for those that have been out for a while. I know Lyft did, when I first started coming back to work, Lyft offered me a earnings guarantee. And then I got that, and I didn't make the amount, but they paid me the difference for the guarantee, so that was less work to do about. So I got to give them credit for that. I've been going back and forth between the platforms, depending on which one's busier and what the promotions are. Here's an example right now on Uber. Here's in LA. There's our dollar surging. This is in the San Fernando Valley. It's surging like crazy right now, all over. And even around other parts of LA. See, more surge right there. It's not even funny. But that's that could be big money for short rides, because then with short trips, even if you're close by, you're more likely to get more than at least $5 or more, which is where we drive. Well, most of us, but that's where I sometimes will drive. But if it's under $4, I ignore. And they're also offering some promotions like $200 if you refer a driver. Apparently it's only for a limited time. This is in my market, but other markets might be offering different promotions, but it all varies by market. But I'm based in Los Angeles, so this is what they're offering right now for us to recruit new drivers back to the platform. But there's a lot of drivers that may or may not want to come back, and fortunately I can't blame them. But eventually I'll get to that time when I can do private trips with a black car, TCP number / limo license. That's where the big money is, and I can steer away from rideshare and only use rideshare just to fill in the gaps. Same with deliveries. Here's a sample promotion. I chose the lower promotion that required the less amount of rides because there's no guarantee I'm going to be able to get that many rides in such a crunch. Like, for example, from May 3rd to May 7th here in LA, I chose the one where you need 40 rides for a $55 bonus and 50 rides for a $70 bonus. Well, basically, after you get the first bonus, then when you go for the second one, it gives you the difference, and that's the total highest you'll get. Like for me, it says it must begin in Los Angeles, but actually it's the greater Los Angeles area region is what it seems to be. Because when I drove in Orange County and they still gave me credit for the rides, like they did with rental incentives. Sometimes it may say it have to be in your city or your county, but it can also be in the greater part of the region, which could also include other counties. Like when they did the rental incentives a couple years ago, the trips for me had to be in the greater Los Angeles area, which is LA County, Orange County, Ventura County, and the Western Inland Empire counties, like Riverside and San Bernardino. Only certain parts of it fell, but that was it, which was not a bad deal. I'm using the rental with hire car because that's where I can drive on multiple platforms. Versus where you rent, like with Lyft Express Drive, you only get to use one platform, and that would be Lyft. Let's see here. Anybody joins in here, make sure to smash that thumbs up. That's what Dustin says. Make sure you smash that thumbs up here. And if anybody has any thoughts and comments, I'd like to hear them below in the description box, or post them in the live if you're online here. Lyft. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with Uber. We're still getting the trip information, which is good. Which is a good thing. But for LAX now, very important, if you're driving at LAX now, they actually have done a pay cut there for the per mile rate, but a raise for the per minute. So now per mile from LAX, I think, is like 34 cents a mile. Let's see if I can find one of my trips here. There's been a glitch in the app where sometimes it's not showing trips far back like it's supposed to. So which is obviously a bug, glitch in your system or something. Looking for it. Bear with me here. Not it. Yeah, I can't go as far back behind Wednesday though, apparently. I don't know what's going on with the Uber app, but it's not allowing us to go any farther back than a certain time, which I think is ridiculous. And I don't know why they do that, why it's working that way, but I still think it's got to be a bug. On weekly earnings, it still shows. Go to a day, see the earnings activity. Oh, there we go. Now it's showing the. Sometimes you now have to go through your. Here it is. Here's one example. So here's one from LAX. Now this was a good surge considering the pay cut because there was a big surge involved. So $47. So here's how it worked. So the per mile rate, a measly 32 cents a mile. Give me a break. But a 30 cents per minute. See, what kind of cheap crap is that? Let me know in the description box what you think. And here's more details. Well, I also had a $26 surge, even though the surge that it told me on the request was like $10 or $11, I don't remember. But then all of a sudden it was higher than I expected. So that's actually a good thing if the surge was big, which would have made it about the price it would be probably if there was no surge. And the customer paid $75 for this ride. So that's it right there, 32 cents a mile LAX. I wouldn't drive for that rate. Unless there was like a big $20+ surge, then maybe. This is on UberX, by the way. The other rides like XL, Comfort, Select, I don't know how that's working, but this is on UberX. And they also cut our rate from 80 cents a mile in LA in Orange County down to 60 cents per mile. And they also cut the per minute rate down to 21 cents a minute, excuse me, which is better per minute than what Lyft offers. But the per mile, 60 cents a mile, give me a break. It should be like $1 something a mile. They still charge 80 cents a mile in the Ventura County, which is good. But the per minute's like 14 cents, I think. 11 or 14, somewhere in there. It takes a while for me to dig around road trips. Other airports like Orange County Airport, I don't know if there's anything that's changed around there because I haven't picked up on Uber there ever since they took away some of the stuff they gave us. Still looking. The Rideshare. If I could find my Uber Green ride. To find my first Uber Green. Uber Green. Yeah, all my route trips have been pretty much UberX. I think it might have been on the weekend. Because I mentioned I got my first Uber Green ever. By the way, now to see a day, because the trips go back, you have to actually choose the day during the week that you want to look at. And then you can look at it. So far, that's all I'm seeing. There it is, Uber Green. So here's my first Uber Green trip. See it there? Uber Green. And here's how it worked. So the total fare was $9.99. It's the same rates as UberX. The per mile permitted is exactly the same. But here's the other earnings. I got a 50-cent green surcharge, which was a bonus to me. It's not a lot though, but it's better than nothing because they chose Uber Green. My passenger also likes to go green too. Nothing wrong with that. I'll still accept Uber Green trips. But green is not available in all regions or cities now, but as far as I know, it's available in LA County and Orange County. But I haven't seen it in Ventura County nor the Inland Empire. But Uber Green is still fairly new. Let's see what else I could show. And of course, I mentioned my profile, Prop 22 is a joke, of course, but if the PRO Act does pass, then now we can see the companies negotiating. And as for Lyft, though, nothing much has really changed on Lyft. Well, they're now bringing out this priority mode, which is AKA poverty mode, which gives you priority to rides, but you get a pay cut. But so far, it's not available in LA, and I hope it stays out. It's now showing it in the app, but it says it's unavailable, which is ridiculous. The priority mode is a joke, and I mean it's a big effing joke. If the only way we can defeat it is I discourage everybody from using priority mode on Lyft. Anybody that has it in your region, everybody keep it off And then Lyft will match as usual because they won't have much choice. Especially if it's a long distance pickup for a passenger, for a driver is in poverty mode and they don't want to get the ride. Looking to see if there's any scheduled pickups on Lyft, but nothing much really I want to take, or at least the times. But there was a scheduled pickup I locked in yesterday, but which would have been from the San Fernando Valley to Temecula. Now that would have been a very good ride. That would have been a nice ride. But unfortunately, it got canceled. The rider canceled it, and I was ready to go take it. But there, at least I found a ride to like LAX, which was, well, I did get one later on, which was a backup. And Instacart, I haven't been on Instacart as much because Instacart, well, because Rideshare is picking up more and I'm trying to get the certain amount of time of engaged time so I can get my healthcare stipend. And speaking of which, last quarter, I actually got the full stipend from Lyft because I had enough hours averaged. You don't have to actually do that amount per week, but it can be more or less. But just for the app, they count up all your engaged time from when you accept a trip until you drop off the passenger or complete the delivery. Is when they count the engaged time. And if the average is 15 hours a week minimum, you get half the full stipend. And if you get at least 25 hours per week, this is only in California, then you get the full stipend. And actually the full stipend covers my full insurance, it's actually more than I would pay for the insurance, which is good. So I have more left over, like if I need prescription co-pays or if you need to do any office visits, you can use that, put that aside. Or if you don't have vision or dental coverage, or if you get limited and you need that, at least you got the funds there aside. So that's how I'm controlling the stipend. It's better than nothing, but if Prop 22 had failed, then we would have probably had to get something better because, of course, the companies would have been forced to negotiate. They wouldn't just say, oh, we have to make all these changes. What they would do first is they would negotiate. And it will work, knowing how they do scare tactics. But I want to mention about the PRO Act. We'll see what happens if this PRO Act passes, keeping fingers crossed. I know some of us don't like being employees, but I don't mind being an employee. And besides, you can still have flexibility because there's nothing in the laws that prevent it. The companies just use it as a scare tactic. So let's say if they're going to have us take rides, the government can regulate them not to make us take all trips. Maybe they can allow us to only decline certain trips, like if it's a certain distance or a certain rating, but at least give us a warning if a trip is coming in, or a trip is going out, and that's in case it comes to us. But I don't know. Let's wait and see if the PRO Act does pass and Prop 22 ever gets overturned. We'll see what happens, but I hope to be doing private trips by then. Okay, I'm on 18 minutes. I'm nearing the 20-minute marker. So basically, I just wanted to talk about how frustrated I am with Uber taking away our multiplier, putting us back on dollar surge. But I do give them credit for still keeping the trip info, and I hope it stays that way. And also for cutting the per mile rate at LAX, which is so stupid. They claim you're getting $12 minimum for pickups. Now, $12 minimum for each ride from if it's a short ride, that's not a bad deal. But cutting the per mile rate, that's so stupid. Come on, get real. Darakasha Shari. COVID era. All right, only one person here. Well, we're getting near the 20-minute marker. So I'm getting ready to wrap it up here. I need to get ready to get on the road and make that money. Money, 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 as Torsten calls it. Also, if you have anything other useful information, feel free to check out some other videos, and also check out other channels as well, like the Rideshare Professor, Rideshare Trickster, Riding with Dustin is Driving, and Dave the Uber Slave, and Drive Girl Drive. So a shout out to a few of some of the channels I follow, and also the Rideshare guy. Check them out too, lots of useful information. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Just make sure you leave a, if you stop by, leave a comment down below to show that you stopped by. And I hope to do more videos eventually, but since things are reopening now, and the bonuses are I'm actually making more money than I anticipated, than expecting per week, which is good. But sometimes some people are complaining because they're not doing things correctly. It's a text message because I locked in a scheduled ride for tomorrow on Lyft. So I'm going to start wrapping it up now. Make sure you smash that thumbs up. Always drive safe. Keep those masks handy. Keep those doors locked until you got the right passenger, and make sure that they're not underage. They don't have any young children without car seats, and make sure they have their face coverings. Of course, children 2 years or younger are exempt. And make sure those passengers are buckling their seatbelts too, because some claim they don't have to in the back, but in most states, especially California, they still have to wear them in the back, and there are no exemptions. I know New York probably does, but make sure those riders are buckling up. And as for the front seat rule, I know they say to keep it empty, but you just use your discretion. Uber and Lyft cannot prohibit you from using the front. Just don't take more passengers than they're allowing. Like Lyft Regular and UberX, the insurance will only cover 3 people. So it's that way. So this way they can make it easy for us to keep the front seat empty, but that's up to your discretion if you're comfortable with a passenger. Because like if they have a disability, if the passenger has a disability, or if they have, or if they're like oversized, or if the 3 people are having a hard time cramming in the back, then open the front up. But just don't take more than what the platform is allowing, like more than 3 on regular and more than 5 on XL. But if the passenger does, if you have a thermometer, do a temperature check, but ask them 3 questions, like to make sure they haven't been in contact with anybody potentially with COVID, no symptoms, and also that they haven't had COVID within the last 14 days. And then if they answer everything correctly, like, nope, they haven't had any of those, then you can use your discretion. Because you want to keep, especially if you want to protect your rating, but it's up to the driver to decide, but just kind of use good judgment. And of course, I haven't had to use the platform yet, but but what I would do, because I'm 6'4", I would text my driver to ask them to if they still want me in the back seat, to make sure that the front seat is moved up, because I keep mine moved up right now as a sign. And the last time I did have I had a rider in the front was because they were 3 very tall guys, and this was in Malibu. This is when we still had the Multiplier, and there was no other vehicles. There was no Comforts or XLs nearby. But he was clean. He swore he didn't have any symptoms and everything. So in those situations, you can make an exception, especially to protect your rating too. Because I spoke to like in-person support on Lyft and Uber, and they said it's up to the driver's discretion. It's more of a judgment call. Just don't take more than you're allowed to for insurance, and make sure the riders are all masked up. But it'd be nice if they make some revisions to that rule or something, since things are reopening now. And since there's not as many XLs out there too, since 4 people have to use XL until further notice. Wrap it up now. As always, check the description box for other tips and links down below. Be careful, drive safe, stay protected, wash and sanitize those hands. Peace.